Let's talk about Zohran. Because this is how this shit gets fixed, okay? This is how this shit gets fixed. We're going to vote for people like fucking Zohran. That's how we're going to fix this stuff. So I want to watch this video. This is Zohran is goated. Kyle Kulinski talking about Zohran's recent, I believe it's polling numbers. So let's watch this shit because this is what it's going to take to get America out of this is people like Zohran Mamdani.
All right, guys, so we got some new polling data in on Zohran Mamdani and his massive win in the New York Democratic primary to be mayor. And, man, this, if I'm keeping it real, this spells doom for the old guard Democratic establishment. Because
Good. That's what I have to say to that. Look, you can be an old guard Democrat and still agree that the way that your party ran things 10 years ago is no longer successful. You can still be a person in the Democratic establishment that still believes in universal health care for all, single-payer universal health care, and things like UBI, things like social safety nets, things like laws against discrimination, things about protecting the LGBT community. You can believe in all of those things as an old-school Democrat and still agree that what is happening right now is that the Democratic Party is no longer capable of keeping up with the vibes-based political fucking atmosphere that we have that Donald Trump has created by doing what they've done forever, and that is reaching across the aisle, being bipartisan, being the adult in the room. It's not working anymore, and you don't have to be excluded from this conversation because you're an establishment Democrat. But if you think that people like Hakeem Jeffries or people like Schumer or any of these other fucking, old school Democrats and their old ass way of going about doing things is going to lead to success for the Democratic Party in the next election or the next election after that, or even the midterms that are coming up, if you believe that their old playbook still works, you're wrong. You don't need to do that. You can agree that playbook doesn't work anymore because that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to evolve. Like in any sport, any offense or defense only works for so long until somebody comes up with something that is the counter to your offense or your defense. Republicans, MAGA, have came up with something that works for them that is defeating the Democrats, and the Democrats within their own party are not happy with the people in their party. It is time for a change, and I'm fucking begging you to find some solidarity with the progressives in your party and say it's more important that what we want for this nation finds its way into our government than it is to be right about, what you thought was correct for the last 20, 30 years as far as winning a political race goes.
this shows the path forward. This shows how Democrats can win. This shows how Democrats can be dominant and actually be loved by the people. So let me walk you through this here. Let's start with this one. We have a whole bunch of different poll numbers to get to, but let's start with this one.
Yeah, raising the minimum wage.
Top issues contributing to Mamdani support were lowering costs, taxing the wealthy, and support for Palestinian rights.
And look, like I said, there's nothing on there that I'm fucking against, but I'm going to say that there's going to be some things, I've said this before, there's some really hardcore left progressive stuff that I'm like, well, I think that we should debate that. Like, I'm not going to say I'm 10 toes down in supporting, say, this or that policy, but we should definitely talk about it. And we should definitely, discern whether or not you're right or whether or not somebody else is right. I do think that that's important. But if you look at what people voted for this guy for, it's all the things that Democrats tell you you won't win elections on. Oh, if we come out... I was just watching this video about taxing the wealthy and how people always say, oh, if you tax the wealthy, they'll just leave. That's wrong on so many different fucking areas that it's hard to even begin with. But there's some great fucking videos out there where you can or where you can, watch them talk about how the statistics do not back that up. That when you do tax people in these other countries through levies on taxes on higher wages on the wealthy. And by the way, when people are talking about taxing the wealthy, they're not talking about taxing people that make $250,000 a year. They're talking about people that make ungodly amounts of money. That's who they're talking about taxing. They're not talking about taxing your uncle that fucking worked his whole life and got a really good job in the school system and makes fucking bank. They're talking about taxing the ultra wealthy. And those people are not going to leave this country because they have ties to this country. They enjoy being here. If they leave here, where the fuck are they going to go? Do you think what are they going to move to Europe? Are they going to move to fucking China? Like, China is going to take all their fucking money. Where are they? Are they going to move to Russia? They'll get put on the front lines in Russia. Where are these people going to move, these millionaires, where they're still going to be able to do what they're doing here in America, enjoy the things that they have here in America, but not pay those taxes? People are tired of this shit. And it shows when you look at these numbers. Oh, thank you for the $5. Fan, thank you so much for the $5. Why more outrage over one guy than the airplane full of people sent to El Salvador that were just disappeared? They're still missing. Look it up. Yeah, 100%. Like, people are mad that Zohran Mamdani won support in the primary campaign to run for the mayor of New York City. Not even that he's the mayor of New York City, that he won the Democratic primary. They're mad about that. But they're not mad about 200 people that were sent to CCOT that we well know that some of them 100% were not criminals. And also, even if they were criminals, they deserve due process. I'm not for people in our country committing crimes against the citizens of this country. But to prove that those people committed those crimes, they do deserve due process. It's very important because if they don't get it, I don't get it. And we don't want to live in a country where citizens of the United States of America do not get due process. That is a extremely slippery slope.
So you can see the specific numbers here. We can walk through it. His plans to lower costs, 89% of people said that affected their decision to vote for him. So that was a huge thing. Cost of living.
That also checks out because the reason that people said that they voted for Trump was for the exact same reason.
I'm going to lower prices, affordability. That was that was the biggest thing where people said, I like this guy. I'm going to support this guy. Okay, 89%. Then we have raising taxes on the wealthy and corporations. 86%. So almost the same number that were like, hey, I'm all about affordability, dog. Almost the same number said, yeah, I mean, you should tax the wealthy because the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer and it's getting absurd. You got Elon Musk is on track to become a fucking trillionaire. A trillionaire.
While fucking insane.
Hundreds of thousands of people are homeless and millions of people
it's fucking insane.
Don't have health insurance and go bankrupt from medical bills. And so people are they're starving for a little bit of redistribution of wealth. They're starving for a new deal. So 86% said tax the wealthy. I love that about him. Support for Palestinian rights. 62% say that was a big asset in determining why they voted for him. 62%. So in other words, the thing that the establishment Democrats thought would be a massive liability for him, it was not a liability. It was an asset. It was a benefit. And then I'll just continue here for the ones that are above 50%. His personality, 60% said that was a big thing as to why they voted for him. His plans to remove red tape and regulatory bottlenecks, 54% said that. His debate performance, 51% said that. His debate performance was a reason they voted for him. So, I mean, this is the roadmap right here. Affordability. Tax the wealthy. Support Palestinian rights.
Because that's what people
stand up
care
against
about.
the Israeli genocide. Those were the big things. New poll, the dam is breaking in the Democratic Party. Our poll with Data for Progress found that Mamdani's unapologetic support for Palestinian rights supercharged his campaign to victory, with 78% of New York City voters saying Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Let me repeat that. Nearly 80% of the voters in New York said, yeah, Israel is committing a genocide.
And, here's the thing I keep saying to people, and this is something that drives me nuts about politics. Criticizing Hamas is not anti-Palestinian. Criticizing the Israeli government is not anti-Semitic. And this is one of the problems with trying to have this conversation, is that so many people want to draw lines in the sand and say, if you believe X, you must be this. You can criticize certain people within Muslim religions that dehumanize women without being against the Muslim religion. You can criticize things that are happening in the Jewish government without being anti-Semitic. This is important because to have conversations, we need to be able to do this. And when we talk about what is happening in Gaza, as everybody knows, I said, when we saw what happened on October 7th, and there were atrocities that were happening, and I know most people are going, oh, it's all fake, this is all fake. Not everything's fake. That, no side in any conflict are angels, ever. Period. End of story. Things happened on October 7th that cannot be explained away by whatever history that you want. It was, there were things that happened on that day that were horrific. After that, what Israel has done to Gaza, I was just watching this video the other day, and I should watch this video again. On stream. It was a young man, he was in his 20s, and he was in Gaza, and he had received an evacuation phone call. And he was told to get out of his apartment because they were going to come there and they were going to remove everybody. And if they had to, they would do so violently. So him and his father and I think his son get up and get in this car. This car's windshield is webbed with broken glass. I get in my car and I have a crack in my windshield and I'm like, oh, fuck, I need to fix this. This guy's whole windshield is completely fucking obliterated and he's driving in this thing. And there's a part in the video where Gaza is so demolished, all the buildings are completely fucking flattened, that they have to try to figure out a way to get to their destination, and there's no GPS in the world that's going to help them. It's like a fucking maze. They're running into dead ends of broken, demolished buildings. If you can't find in your heart empathy for people that are currently living in a country where you can't even find your way to a safe place to evacuate to because you keep running into dead ends of demolished buildings, you're not a great human being. It doesn't matter where you land, whether or not you're pro-Israel or you're pro-Palestine in this conflict. There are certain things that are without a doubt unacceptable. When you talk about children being harmed in Palestine, that is unacceptable. When you talk about innocent people, non-combatants dying in Gaza or being injured in Gaza, that is unacceptable. And it doesn't need to be labeled as ethnic cleansing or genocide for you to accept that. This argument over the semantic definition of a word continues to obfuscate the fact that there are innocent people in Gaza dying. And that's what matters. It doesn't matter whether or not the term fits what is happening or not, and whether or not you agree that it does or not. What matters is that innocent people are dying, and that is wrong. That the infrastructure in Gaza has been obliterated and will never be able to recover for Palestinians that live in that country. That is what every single person, regardless of what side of the argument you're on, should be able to agree on. And I would be saying the same thing if it had happened to Israel. If Israel today was flattened and there were 200,000 Jewish people that had been injured or killed by the Hamas government, I would be saying the same thing about Israel. It's fucking insane that that's where we're at right now.
So Zohran is a longtime champion of Palestinian rights, achieved a historic victory in June. This poll of 513 voters who cast a ballot in the primary was conducted July 11th to 17th, and that was before images of Israel's forced starvation in Gaza made global headlines. Interesting.
You see, and
so New York City primary voters.
I see you guys about to argue over the fucking word. The word doesn't matter. It's so crazy that we continue to argue over words. It fucking drives me nuts. It's like when people say, oh, the government you want is communist. It's like, do you believe that every single thing in a communistic government is bad? It's like there are definite fucking weaknesses and flaws that I can point out in a communistic government. But do I think everything in communism is bad? No. Are there weaknesses and flaws in capitalism? Yes. But do I think that, capitalism as a whole is bad? No. Like, we need to get past this semantic bullshit that we do to ourselves and to other human beings where we go, you have to agree on what I'm saying on this one fucking word. We allow ourselves, like I said, to obfuscate, to act like, the actual tragedies or the actual flaws in the current system that we're in can be explained by the definition of a word. The definition of the word is not important. It is what is actually happening. If the best government, which I believe is true, the best government that exists has machinations of socialism, capitalism, democracy, and communism, then I'm okay with that. If innocent people are dying, I don't need to label it in a certain way for it to be bad. And instead we get stuck on arguing about the semantic definition of a term. And that's not what's important. We've got to fucking stop.
Were strongly pro-Palestinian and highly critical of Israel. 78% say Israel is committing a genocide. 79% support restricting weapons to Israel. And 63% of New Yorkers support arresting Netanyahu if he visits New York
That's
City.
pretty high.
63%. Again,
that's pretty fucking high.
When Zohran said that, it was viewed as like, oh, how dare he? How could he? What a wild thing to say. Meanwhile, the voters were like,
hi
that's
to
common
you.
sense,
I
bro.
saw your message.
He's wanted by the International Criminal Court. He's a war criminal. It's super clear. Of course, arrest him. 63%. That's a colossal majority. So that is absolutely, positively huge. Then I'll also give you this. Ready?
You know what's funny about that, too? Is that there's so many people on the left that would 100% accuse George Bush Jr. of war crimes for his atrocities in Iraq, right? The things he did to Iraqi civilians, or his military did. That would not agree that Netanyahu should be arrested. They believe that George Bush should be arrested, but Netanyahu would. That's what I'm saying is like consistency must happen in this area where it's like, lying about WMDs and flattening Iraq, which, by the way, is what happened. There was tons of places in Iraq and tons of places in Afghanistan where innocent people died at the hands of American drones and American soldiers, sadly. That's fucking sad to say. And they would say, oh, I'm with that, 100%. George Bush should be arrested. Okay. So what about Netanyahu? And they're like, no, he's just like defending his country. Like, that's fucking crazy. It's crazy.
Look at the polling. So they did Zohran versus all the other candidates, and then they narrowed it down to if it ends up being Zohran versus one candidate like Cuomo, who's currently the one who's in second place right now. But no matter how you slice it or dice it, Zohran is crushing him. So,
do you guys know who Curtis Lewa is? He's the Guardian Angels guy. You guys should, if you guys ever have a chance, go watch my video on Curtis Lewa. I have a video on Curtis Lewa. You should definitely watch that. It's fucking amazing.
In this poll, Zohran's at 50% in a 5-person race. And the closest person to him is Andrew Cuomo with 22%. And then Zohran also has a 52-40 lead over Cuomo in a head-to-head battle. So still a double-digit 12-point lead, even if Eric Adams drops out, even if Curtis Sliwa, the Republican, drops out, it would still be 52-40 Zohran. He is showing the roadmap. And there's a deeper reason, too, why I say he's showing the roadmap. And this is that reason right here. Look at this. More poll numbers on him. 85% of young men support Zohran Mamdani. 79% of young women support Zohran Mamdani. 67% of Jewish people who are 18 to 44 support Zohran Mamdani. 65% of black people age 18 to 44 support Zohran Mamdani. We heard this stuff all the time from Democratic pundits after the last election, right? Oh, Democrats have lost ground with certain groups, and we need to bring back these groups, and we need to make sure we appeal to them. And everybody's got their fucking theory as to how you appeal to young men, how do you bring them back in, right? Well, now you have an example of a guy who did it in overwhelming numbers, in crushing numbers.
Yeah.
And all those same people are running and hiding and not even endorsing Zohran, even though they're Democrats.
It's fucking insane.
Hakeem Jeffries running and hiding.
I was going to say, thank you, Kyle. I was going to say, of all people, Hakeem Jeffries attempts to try to be more in touch with the younger people and attempts to come across with this facade of being a younger guy that's more in touch, right? And really, more and more now, unfortunately, what we're seeing is that it seems like Hakeem Jeffries is much more interested in being Chuck Schumer's understudy than he is in, like, sticking to the things that maybe, hopefully, he genuinely believes. And anybody that sees something like that happen is going to call it for what it is, and that is selling out your constituents for a potential place in your career, so that way you can be the next Chuck Schumer, which is, in my opinion, not something that anybody should be, advocating for him to do. Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, whoever it is out there, every single one of these people in the Democratic Party should be looking at these percentage numbers in these polls and saying to themselves, this is fucking looking like this is what at least people in New York City want, right? But New York City is a pretty good representative, not of the entire country, but of the Democratic base. I mean, New York City is immigrants. New York City is wealthy people. New York City is poor people. New York City it's a melting pot of all these different elements that are in the Democratic Party and their base. And if you have percentages that are that high, then it should stick out to the Democratic Party that this seems like, at the end of the day, at the least, something worth giving a shot. Getting behind these numbers. And I mean, to be honest with you, if I'm just speaking fucking truthfully, they should have been doing this the whole time anyways, because this is what they've been fucking telling us that they believed. They've been telling us that these are the things that they want to give to us if we vote for them. And now a guy comes out and says the same thing. I would do these things if you just vote for me. And now you have Democratic people not even endorsing him. That's fucking insane. That's like literally the Democrats saying, yo, we don't actually believe the shit we've been telling you guys. If you're going to force us to vote or to support this guy who's going to follow through with all these things, then we can't be a part of it. Then go fucking join Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema and John fucking Fetterman. You form your own party somewhere else. And I'm all for that. I think that there should be a Republican Party and there should be a fascist party, because those people are fascists. They admit that they are now. I believe that there should be a Democratic Party and a Progressive Party. I think that just should be the way it is. I think that we need to open it up and have 4 parties, so that way we can stop fucking playing like all these people are actually representing some of the people in their own party.
Chuck Schumer running and hiding. A lot of the establishment Democrats are running and hiding. Why?
Timu Obama.
They take money from AIPAC.
Damn.
They take money from the Israel lobby, and they know Zohran is critical of Israel. Zohran is anti-genocide. Zohran is pro-Palestinian rights. They don't want to be asked about Zohran. They don't want to have to endorse a pro-Palestinian Democrat. So what are they doing? Being cowards.
Wait. How can you... I got to ask this. You guys tell me if you know the answer. How can you be pro-immigrant and anti-Palestinian rights? That doesn't even make sense. How can you be pro undocumented immigrants in America because we believe that undocumented immigrants have the same rights by being here on American soil as American citizens do? They have the same civil liberties. How can we believe as Democrats that the deportation of undocumented immigrants in America is wrong, but people literally getting their homes destroyed, flattened, like not even like you're going to get some insurance money and rebuild, like gone, never to be lived in again, is an acceptable outcome for any other human being on this planet? That's fucking nuts.
Little cowards and little bitches. And so, but here you go.
Ranked choice
he
voting.
Showed you
Thank
the way.
you, fan.
Democrats all across this country. He's showing you the way. Take all your fucking theories about, oh, what if we bring up Ezra Klein and abundance and talk about zoning reform? This is a democratic socialist.
Yeah, and the one thing I will say about this is I will repeat something I said earlier, and that is there is a place for Ezra Klein in the Democratic Party. There is a place for Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer in the Democratic Party. There is a place for these people. It is just not at the head of the table. That's the problem, is that the person that leads the party should represent the values of the people that form the party, right? I'm not for saying that because I disagree with people that they should not be part of the party. What I'm saying is that those people, you either start a second party where you tend to delve it down further and further, but that's only fair if you also split the other side. I think that you can have an Ezra Klein that wants to talk about zoning, and you can have people that want to talk about government reforms in different manners, and you can still have people like Mamdani that talk about socialist policies as well. I think that Bernie Sanders should have a seat at the table. And that's part of the problem, is that a lot of these people that represent true progressive values have never had a seat at the table. They're never given any support by the Democratic Party.
Who ran on a pro-Palestine message and on a message of affordability. And he crushed. Now, are his personal characteristics and his charisma, does that count for nothing? No, of course not. Of course that stuff matters. And is it a big deal? Sure, it definitely is a big deal. 60 or 61% said
voting,
that was one of the main reasons why I really like the guy, right? But you have to marry that charisma and that like natural ability. You have to marry that with an agenda for the people, and he was able to do that easily. Because he actually believes in this shit. He actually cares about this shit. He actually wants to end the genocide. He actually wants to make living in New York City more affordable. Right? He actually wants to do free buses, for example, and daycare, and freeze the rent, and stuff like that. But again, 85% of young men support Zohran. So any Democrat who, hey, I want to be successful, I want to make it in the party, I want to make it for myself, I want to do some good things, here you go. The roadmap is here. Affordability, again, he's running for mayor, so it's a little different than if you're running, for a federal position, but the idea of make life easier for people, make life better for people, affordability, take some things off the table like freezing the rent, take some things off the table like free buses and daycare and shit like that. Run on that and try to stop the fucking genocide unfolding in front of our eyes, and boom, you'll make it. You'll be popular. So just based on what we've seen so far, dog, Zohran is pretty goated. I love that we're now no longer talking about moral
pretty
victories
goated. I like
for the left these days. Because for the longest time, if you're on the left, it's just a track record, a litany of heartbreak after heartbreak. But now, for the first time ever, it's not like, hey, our guy came close but didn't win. Now it's like, no, he fucking crushed. And This is it. This is what we're talking about. No more moral victories. I think Zohran said that shit. He was like, no more moral victories. How about some actual victories?
Well, here
we are.
There we go.
Here we are. It took fucking 2 Trump regimes and this asshole building concentration camps and bombing Iran and destroying the economy completely and doing all sorts of psychotic shit. But we're finally here. And they better get used to it because we're the future. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe.
Yeah. I don't understand how anybody is against what this guy is doing. He wants to help you. And the worst case scenario is that he gets into office and does not follow through, or the things that he does are not successful, the city of New York is not going to fall off a map while he is in the mayoral office. If you are a Democrat and you think that socialistic policies are bullshit and don't work, which is weird, but let's say you do. You think progressives are idiots. They don't understand government. They don't think it's going to work, right? The best thing that you can do in this situation is vote for Zohran Mamdani, let him fail, and then point to it and say, see, we told you so. Because the only other option there is to put back into the mayoral seat a guy who already has had his issues as a Democrat, has been shown to not support the actual values that people believe in the Democratic Party or supposedly believe, or to put a Republican in there. If you're a Democrat and you think that these socialist progressive policies are going to fail, then put him in office, and then when he fails, point it out. And if he gets into office and he does well and those things work, then you need to shut the fuck up and you need to look at all the people in your party and you need to say to every one of them, I'm sorry, I was wrong, you were right, let's move past this. And by the way, to the people on the other side, the progressives in the party, also need to be the better person in that equation and say, I accept your apology. I'm super fucking glad you figured out I'm right. And say, now let's move on. Because there is an amount of solidarity that is non-existent within the left that people need to find. And that is, once again, that as long as you have the same fundamental foundation that I do on human rights, then we can disagree on things. Like I said, I don't like the portion of the Progressive Party that says everybody must say the word genocide. I understand the argument from that, and that is that by saying it, it's saying to the world that we recognize what is going on is fucking horrific. But when I see people ripping Bernie Sanders, when I see people ripping Jasmine Crockett, or when I see people ripping AOC, people who are actually standing up for you and doing the job for not coming out and saying that word, but then also saying that there are atrocities being committed in Gaza. It just shows to me that we still haven't figured that out. We still haven't figured out that the important thing is we stand on the same foundation of fundamental values and we all want the same things for people, and that on occasion our language and the way that we go about communicating these things are going to be different. And we need to be better. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, and check out that video on the screen now.